Hello, and thank you for considering criminology at the Embrook School. So what the purpose of this video is going to be is to take you through a little bit about the course itself, what you'll actually study, what criminology actually is, how you'll be assessed on the course, and what you can then be doing to prepare yourself if you decide to take your study of criminology with us further next year. So the first point, and quite an important point, is to note that this is not an A-level. This is the equivalent to one A-level. So it's run by the exam board WJEC through the EDUCAS wing, which is the branch that runs qualifications for England, and it's referred to as an applied diploma in criminology. Now what that means is you're going to be doing a qualification that is taught over exactly the same number of hours as an A-level, is worth exactly the same number of UCAS points as an A-level, but is regarded as more of a vocational qualification than an A-level. So that does have some repercussions potentially for progression, which I'll go through a little bit later on. In terms of grading, it's graded in exactly the same way. So the grades that are available to you are everything from an A star down to the E grade. But the real kind of key difference with this and your standard A-level is the way it's assessed. It's assessed in a very, very different way. So rather than 3 exams at the end of 2 years, it's 4 assessment points throughout the 2 years. Each January there's an assessment point, and each June there's an assessment point effectively. So you build your qualification up over the course of your study with us. That does, again, have some repercussions, which I'll come to when we go through the assessment side of things. But I personally think it's quite a refreshing way of doing a qualification, this idea of being able to build your qualification so that in theory when you get to the end of the course you already know roughly what you're on track for. It makes predicting grades for UCAS and so forth much simpler, and it means you've got a bit more weighting to your application potentially. But again, as I said, that there are a couple of extra bits just to run through on that, which I'll do towards the end. So why should you study this course, and what is criminology? So criminology is the scientific study of crime and of criminals. Basically what we're looking at in this course is everything from what actually is crime and deviance, what we mean by those concepts, all the way through to why people commit crime, how we should deal with criminals, how the actual investigation process works. So it's a kind of complete overview of the legal system. There are some questions on the screen there for you that are questions you'd want to consider if you're interested in studying this course. So, have you ever thought about why people commit different crimes? Why serial killers commit crime? Why some crimes are reported whereas others aren't? Have you ever thought about how much the media actually influences our perception of crime? Is that actually accurate, or are the media exaggerating things? What about how various different ideas explain crime and deviance? So we look at biological, psychological and sociological theories for how we explain crime and deviance, and all these different things that are really interesting. Now that it's all quite specific, so this course comes from the world of psychology and sociology primarily, but it goes into the more specific details around the study of crime and deviance, whereas psychology and sociology are slightly broader in their study and look at society and individuals on a more kind of holistic level. So what will you actually get if you study this course? So it's broken down into 4 units. We'll go through each of those in turn. So Unit 1 is called Changing Awareness of Crime. And in this unit, we'll start with the very basics of looking at different types of crimes. And we look at primarily unreported crimes. So we'll be looking at things like white-collar crime, cyber crime, domestic violence, those kind of things. We'll be looking at the reasons why they go unreported, and what consequences that has. So we'll be looking at why people might not come forward for domestic violence, for example, and what the consequence of people not coming forward in relation to that kind of crime might be. We'll then have a look at the link between crime and the media and the impact this has on our perception of crime in the UK. We'll then have a look at crime statistics and how we collect crime statistics and the data that we have about crime in the UK. So how do the police collect it? Through the official statistics. But then how do universities and sociologists and so forth collect different kinds of data to give us a more full picture of what's going on? And then last but not least, we'll compare and evaluate a series of campaigns that have driven for change in this country, and you'll get to design your own campaign for change. And then you'll complete a controlled assessment at the end of this unit. We'll come back to that in a second. And this will be the very first unit you'll do. So you'll do this unit from September until December, and then you'll be assessed on it in January. We'll then move into Unit 2, Criminological Theory. So this is all about why people commit crime. So we'll start by looking at the difference between crime and deviance, how those concepts are socially constructed, so how they are created by the society in which we live, and how crime and deviance are not universal concepts found in the same way around the world. And then the big aspect of this unit is to look at three sets of theories, and how they explain criminality. So we'll look at biological theories of criminality. So we'll look at things like the XYY theory, which states that some men might commit crime because they've got an extra Y chromosome. We'll look at brain injuries and how they can lead to criminality. We'll then move on to the individualistic theories of crime, which is the psychological area. So we'll look at ideas from people like Sigmund Freud and Bandura, and things like the Bobo doll experiment, and how we can look at the psychological level of why people commit crimes. And then we'll move on to the sociological theories. So we'll look at things like feminism and Marxism, and look at how society might influence us to commit crime. And in each case, we'll evaluate those theories for their pros and cons. We'll then look at some specific situations of criminality. So we'll look at some specific case studies and look at what might have caused the criminal behaviour in those cases. And then last but not least, we'll look at how this all impacts on policy development. So we'll look at how campaigns and the theories around criminality can impact on the policy development of governments and so forth in relation to these areas. Unit 3, which you'll study in the second year. So Unit 2 will be finished in the first year. Unit 3 is the first one we study in the second year. We'll start this actually just at the end of year 1 after you've done your Unit 2 exam. And this is about following the investigation process all the way from the crime scene right the way through to the courtroom and the appeals process. So we'll look at all the different people that are involved in a criminal investigation, everyone from the police officers all the way through to the CSIs and so forth, and we'll look at the roles each of those do, and the pros and cons of each of them, again using case studies to help us illustrate them. We'll look at the various techniques they have for analysing the crime scene. We'll then look at the rules around evidence and what can be presented in court, and how the court system itself works, and the roles of all the different people within the court system. So we'll have a look at the roles of all the professionally trained individuals within the legal system, so the judges, the legal counsels, these kind of things. And we'll also have a look at the roles of the lay people, so the ordinary citizens who don't have legal training, so the juries and the magistrates and so forth, and the roles they have to play. Within that, we'll also look at the influence of different things on the outcome of the case, so the influence that politicians and the media and so forth can have on the outcome of a case. And then last but not least, in this section, we will look at the validity and reliability of the data that is presented in court. We'll be looking at sentencing, when it can be too lenient, when it can be too harsh, and then we'll be looking at some real life case studies where there have been miscarriages of justice, and be trying to work out why there are miscarriages of justice in those cases, and what that meant for the legal system, any reforms that came about as a result of that, and so forth. And that will be covered in the second year, and again you'll be assessed on that towards the end of the first term, so you'll be assessed on that around about December time. And then last but not least, we'll look at crime and punishment. So this unit looks at how we actually make laws in the UK, how the criminal justice system itself works in the UK. We'll be looking at different theories and models around how we should conduct criminal justice. So we're looking at, for example, comparing concepts of retribution to concepts of rehabilitation. We'll be looking at the types of punishment that we use in the UK, and indeed we'll get a chance to look at some punishments we don't use in the UK and analysing each of those. We'll be looking at how we control citizens, so how does the process of social control work, and then possibly most importantly, we'll be looking at the strengths and weaknesses of all the different law enforcement agencies that we have in the UK. And that will be studied from roughly January of year 2 until you sit your final exam in May, June time in the second year. So what you should have by the time you get to the end of this course is a very nice overview of the criminal justice system that will set you up to go and work in an area related to criminology. Now, how is this all assessed? Now, as I said, the assessment is very, very different, and this is something that you should consider. So Unit 1 is assessed through what's referred to as a controlled assessment. This is internally assessed, so it'll be marked by the teachers at the Embrook School and moderated then by the exam board. And within this, you'll need to write a very detailed report based around the range of topics that we've covered in Unit 1, and you'll need to design your own campaign for change. And to do all of that, you'll be given 8 hours over 2 days in a computer room. You'll have 3 hours on the first day where you'll be analysing a lot of knowledge that you've been looking at in Unit 1. So you'll be analysing different types of crimes and so forth. And the second day, you'll be in a computer room for 5 hours. And in that, you'll be comparing different campaigns for change, and you will be making your own campaign. That will then be assessed, as I said, by the teachers at the Embrook School. You'll be given your result, that'll be moderated by the exam board, and that is 25% of your course then done. The second unit is then an externally examined unit, just like a standard A-level for that one. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's primarily short answer questions, everything from 2 marks up to 9 marks. You'll sit that exam in May of your first year. So by the time you get to the end of your first year, you'll have 50% of your qualification already behind you, and you'll be awarded a certificate in criminology. If you then carry on to the second year and you complete Unit 3 and Unit 4, you'll then be awarded the full diploma, which is the equivalent to the A-level. And again, the assessment methods are the same as they are in the first year. So Unit 3, the crime scene to the courtroom, is assessed through a controlled assessment, which again is internally assessed by the teachers here at the Embrook School. And in this, you will analyse the criminal investigation process and produce a report detailing the strengths and weaknesses of the whole process. So you'll be given a case study effectively to look at, and you'll analyse everything that went on and ultimately come to a verdict of whether you think the verdict in that case was a safe one or not. Again, it's 8 hours, but it's structured slightly differently this time. We don't have to do it over 2 days, so this will be done over a number of days, 1 or 2 hours each day, just spreading it out to make it a little bit easier on you effectively. And again, it will be marked by the teachers here at the Embrook School, moderated by the exam board. You'll get your results roughly around the Easter holidays for that one. And then Unit 4 is externally examined, again, just like a standard A-level, just like in the Unit 2. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes, again, all pretty much short answer questions ranging from 2 to 9 marks, and it's all about the knowledge that you've covered in Unit 4. Now, as I've detailed there, the assessment is very, very different from your standard A-level. I personally think that's quite refreshing, but it does come with a catch effectively, which is that with this qualification, if you fail any of those units, you fail the whole qualification. Now obviously for Unit 1 and Unit 2 that's not such an issue because you can resit those, but for Unit 3 and Unit 4 the resit window isn't really available to you in Year 13, so that would mean potentially failing the course. So just bear that in mind. It's something to think about when you're working out if you'd like to do this course. If you're really interested in studying criminology, have a think about the assessment method. It's very, very different from your standard A-level. I said I think it's quite refreshing, but it does come with a couple of little differences. The 2 8-hour assessments for one, and obviously the kind of hard and fast rule of you fail one and you fail the whole course. So what will this course prepare you for? Now there's a couple of things this course will prepare you for. If you want to go on and study at university, it will enable you to do that. As I said, it's worth exactly the same number of UCAS points as standard A-level, and I've put some examples on the screen there for you of the kind of things it would set you up for. So it really is quite heavily focused on helping you to study subjects related to the social sciences in particular, particularly around criminology, psychology, sociology, and law are the particular areas where it's going to focus on. So that's what you want to be doing. If you're thinking of going on to university and you're thinking of studying one of those areas, this course is probably a good one to consider. If you're thinking of studying other areas, you might want to have a bit of a deeper think about it. What about if you're not going on to university? Well, this will help you to enter into working in some aspects of the criminal justice system. So it could obviously help you with working for the police force. It could help you with working for things like the National Probation Service, working with youth offenders, those kind of things as well. So it's got that other aspect to it. As well as applying to university, it's also got the other aspect of being able to help you with alternative routes. So what should you do next if you're thinking of taking criminology? The first thing I would do is I'd go on the WJEC website and explore the specification in a bit more detail. The WJEC specification is very detailed. It tells you exactly what you need to know, so it's worth having a look through. I would also encourage you to go onto the British Sociological Association website. Criminology comes from sociology. It studies very specific part of sociology, but it does come out of that, so it's worth looking. There's quite a lot of good articles on there about the world of crime and deviance. Obviously, I'd stay up to date with the news. That's quite key for this subject. I would explore Netflix. There's loads of really good crime documentaries on Netflix. And then one of the things I think is most important, and I think it's really important to kind of lay our cards on the table here, if you are planning on a university application, I would really encourage you to check your preferred institution or course will accept this qualification effectively. There are some that do not, and there are some that accept it for very specific courses. So I would encourage you to do a little bit of research before committing yourself to this course. That's not me wanting to downplay it, because I think it's a very, very good course. We've got very good numbers on it. The students really enjoy it, but it's just something that I think needs to be done. So just to kind of summarise then, criminology is the study of crime and deviance. It's looking at it from a variety of different points of view, structured over 4 units, each assessed in a slightly different way, and ultimately designed to help you move on to study criminology or related subjects, either at university or going to work in the criminal justice sector. I hope you consider the course. Hopefully I'll be working with some of you in September. Thank you.